Good morning, Kinaway members, and welcome back to another episode of Kinaway TV. My name is James Brown. I'm a business broker here at Kinaway, and I'll be hosting today's webinar, taking over from the Kitani, who usually takes these webinars. Before I kick things off today, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm coming to you all from. I'd like to also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which each and every one of us are tuning in from, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to also extend those respects to Indigenous peoples who are joining us this morning. We're pleased to bring you another webinar as part of Indigenous Business Month, and today I'm thrilled to announce we have Paul Seidel from GigSuper joining us. Paul is a resident super guide at GigSuper, and will be taking us through some ins and outs self-employed business owners need to know when it comes to superannuation. Paul is a former financial advisor and has been exposed to the devastating side effects of self-employed people retiring with little to no superannuation, and he's incredibly eager to play a role in changing that for all self-employed business owners. Paul will be covering a variety of topics, which I'm sure are highly relevant to a number of our members who are joining us here today. For anyone viewing that has any questions, please feel free to post them on whatever platform you're viewing from, as Paul will be able to view and answer any questions we may receive throughout the webinar. So without taking up too much more time, I'd like to welcome Paul for today's webinar.
Hi, James.
G'day, Paul. How are you going?
Good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. I'm glad we finally got here on time. We had a few issues again with the email and stuff. So just want to thank you for joining us for today. Really appreciate you jumping on board, and I'm sure you have some information that's really relevant and really important, for our members to sort of get their heads around. So once again, thank you for joining us, and without taking up too much time, I'll let you take it away.
No worries. Awesome. Thank you again for having me. I'm so excited to be a part of all your business building tips that you're providing, and I'm so excited to be here today. And that was a great introduction as well, James. So thank you. So my topic today is why is super so important when you're self-employed. And I've got many few tips, but before we get into everything, I also did want to do an acknowledgement of country myself. I want to begin today by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people, the traditional custodians of the land on which I am coming from today. And I would like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I would also like to extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people watching and participating in this session today as well. So just like James said, I am the resident super guide at GigSuper. But prior to joining GigSuper, my experience has been in the financial advice industry. And just like James said, when I was an advisor, I did come across, a lot of clients coming to me in their 60s, with little to no superannuation, asking me what I could do for them. And unfortunately, because, they were self-employed and didn't make contributions to their super, along their careers, I really couldn't do much to help them. And unfortunately, they had to just take advantage of, the current social security system that the country has. But unfortunately, that didn't meet the needs of a lot of them, and they wouldn't be living to the standard of living that they'd be used to if they were, currently working and producing an income. So that's why I'm so passionate about trying to help people, giving them as much superannuation knowledge as possible so they don't end up in that situation like a lot of those clients did when they reached retirement age. And I want to empower people as much as possible through financial education and knowledge. I also just want to start, before this presentation goes further, anything that I do say in this presentation is of general advice nature. So if you do need further financial advice, please seek out a qualified financial advisor or tax accountant. But I want to get into it, and let's get stuck into why is super so important when you're self-employed. So when you're self-employed, you're running your own gig, you're the master of all your different hats. You have to be your own marketing person. You have to be your own HR to look after yourself, and you have to be your own payroll and everything. But superannuation is one of those things that keeps getting left behind for self-employed people because it is voluntary. When you're self-employed, you don't have to make superannuation contributions. And that's completely fine for some people. But for the vast majority of Australians, it's reaching nearly 2.2 million self-employed people. And coming out of the pandemic, we're seeing a massive growth of people, opening up their own businesses, going out on their own and doing what they love. But unfortunately, when it becomes voluntary, that's when we see a lot of business owners, forgetting to pay themselves superannuation, because we completely see, you're starting to get a bit of income in and you want to pay yourself and reward yourself. You have to pay bills, you have to keep the lights on. But unfortunately, superannuation is, of course, sometimes the first thing to go. So unfortunately, I wanted to bring to light some of these, really damaging statistics that really, eye opens us and what we at GigSuper trying to close. So on average, self-employed people are retiring with nearly 50% less on average in their super accounts than their employee counterparts. And even more damaging, on average, self-employed women will retire with 70% less when compared to their employed male counterparts. And these statistics are from the Australian Superannuation Funds of Australia, the association. So it's expected, men will retire with around 143K and women at around 83K. And at GigSuper, we just don't see that as acceptable. And there is already a massive gender pay gap, but now there's this massive self-employed pay gap. And that's what we're trying to do at GigSuper, is we're trying to close this gap as much as possible by trying to give people as much information and technology as needed, so they can, educate and learn to pay themselves again. But I know, as scary as these statistics sound, there is still so much hope, because we completely understand that when it comes to superannuation, this is supposed to be a moving gift. It's not moving anymore, but it just goes straight over people's heads. Unfortunately, like I said before, all self-employed people have to be the master of their own trade, and that is your zone of genius. Whether you're doing your trade, whether you're a designer, whether you're a freelancer, whether you're a copywriter, whether you're a mechanic, you are the master in your trade. And unfortunately, you might not have the time to learn all about the ins and outs of superannuation. And that's where you might need, somebody like me or somebody in the finance industry to help guide you along and point you in the right direction to start rewarding yourself again. Because I don't want everybody watching this and everybody seeing this, working your 30, 40-year career, day in, day out, putting your blood, sweat, and tears into your profession, and then having nothing to show for at the end of your career. You have to see super as a reward for all your years of hard work. Because once you get to retirement, that age pension might not exist in the future. We are completely unsure. So you also have to think of superannuation as a little bit of a retirement policy. So you could rely on when, we reach that golden age of around 67 at the current age pension age. So I didn't want to leave this session without giving everybody the best tips and tricks where you can start paying yourself superannuation into any superannuation fund. And these tips can work regardless, with as much as you're earning and with whatever superannuation fund you're currently with. So these can be applicable all across the board. And these are practical steps that you can take away from today that you can start paying yourself superannuation. So step one, if you want to start paying yourself superannuation, we suggest setting up a weekly savings account, preferably into a separate bank account. Now, this is for a few reasons. One is that we can see if we have money all sloshing together all around in one point, we're more likely to spend that, and we're more likely to dip into that from time to time. So we do suggest opening up, a separate bank account in a net saver account where you can start an automatic direct savings into that weekly. Now, at this point, we do suggest starting with a minimum of $10. That's 2 cups of coffee. It's a very achievable amount. And we suggest starting at a minimum of $10 because we can see that that is a very good place to start, and you can build upon that as you go in the weeks. As you start bringing in your money, as you get paid, if you get paid your invoices as they come along, you can start to increase that if you want per week, or you can decrease that at any time. We wanted to give this tip because it's an achievable amount, and we don't want self-employed people to see the amount as a roadblock why they're not paying themselves super. We also suggest a separate bank account because that bank account can also be, a kind of another emergency buffer or savings deposit fund where if you need it, you could take money from. Being self-employed people, we know that from time to time, expenses come up, even personal expenses. Sometimes in your business, a piece of equipment might break. If you're a photographer, you might need to buy a new camera. If you're a copywriter, your laptop might just bust one day. So this is where this emergency fund can really come in handy for your business if you need to draw upon it. So that's a few reasons why we suggest a separate bank account and why we suggest you save that weekly. For step 2, we suggest that whatever super fund you're with, we suggest you get all your superannuation fund details, so such as your member number, the unique superannuation identification number, the ABN payment details, which are really important, and making sure that you have their email address, and making sure that your TFN is currently updated with them. Because unfortunately, if it's not properly updated with your super fund, you may incur some more tax penalties on that one. So please ensure when you're getting all this information that you're also updating your information along the way, just so everything's right. In this step, a lot of people can come to this one, especially people who have got married and changed their names. This is a good point to update that one as well, just so all your records are kept and all the same as well. And also at this point, you can find this information through a few different avenues. So I know a lot of us are guilty of receiving our superannuation fund letters and throwing them in the bin. Before I personally worked for myself and for GigSuper, I think I was guilty of this as well. I didn't pay too much attention, but it is so important to keep these records and to ensure you know where your money is going. Another way to find out this fund information is it is readily available through your ATO portal, through your MyGov login. So if you go to your ATO portal and go to the superannuation section, there should be all of your superannuation funds that you've accumulated across your possibly employed life, and because they should all be linked to your TFN. Again, if one's not showing up there, it may not have your correct TFN listed on your superannuation fund. So that might be a good cause for you to go and update that one. So that one is step 2. So after saving weekly, go get your superannuation fund information. So you've got steps 1 and steps 2 done. Step 3, we suggest after you save weekly for 12 weeks consecutively, we suggest then on the 12th week, make that contribution to your superannuation account. Now, this is for a couple of reasons. It's given you 12 full weeks of savings where you can then assess, can I now practically put this money from my cash account into my superannuation account? It's a good way to, self-assess. Do you need to hold back a bit of money in your business? Do you need to keep some money back so you can pay for something that's coming up? Or can you put 50% of it into your superannuation account? This step is supposed to be all about your decision and your choice and what you feel comfortable with about putting money into super. This is a great habit to introduce every single 12 weeks so you get in the habit of moving that money across to superannuation. It's also every 12 weeks because this is also in line with BAS statement activities, which I know a lot of our small business owners would be well aware of. That occurs quarterly. And also, this is how superannuation is paid in the normal employee world. This is how normal, companies and businesses also like to keep a bit of money back for cash flow purposes and then pay their employees superannuation quarterly as well. And they do that just because of the same reasons what I said above about, keeping a bit of money in your cash flow just in case of emergencies as well. It's really great at this 12 weeks that after you've done this, you've got your audit and then you put some money aside and then you direct that into your superannuation account. To direct it to your super account, you can either do this in a few ways. It's done via BPay. So that's, come in step 2. That was handy getting the payment details. Or you can do a direct debit transfer. And I just keep in mind when you're doing a direct debit transfer that you have to put a reference number that ensures that you are correctly allocating your funds to your superannuation account and they're classified in a specific way if you want to make a personal contribution or a non-concessional contribution. Now, this is a really, really important step because we don't want you to miss out on anything when it comes to step 4. So as immediately as you've made that contribution at the 12-week mark, we suggest the day after or the day of, we suggest you fill out your notice of intention to claim form. And this is the way that you can claim your contributions as tax deductions. Now, all through this, you might be thinking, Paul, I know if superannuation contributions are voluntary, what is the benefit to me as a small business owner? Well, one of the biggest benefits of super, other than having money in retirement, is the tax environment. So money taxed outside of super is taxed at, a normal marginal average tax rate is at the moment is around 34.5%. But within superannuation land, if you claim your contributions as a tax deduction, that drops down to 15%. That is a massive tax decrease. It's one of the most, legal tax, thresholds to decrease your tax in the country, and it is just a great way to decrease your overall tax. So It's a massive tax cut just by, rewarding your future self with your superannuation payments. But to do that, you do need to fill out this notice of intention to claim form, and it's so important. If you just make your superannuation contributions and don't fill out this form, you won't get the tax deduction, because your superannuation fund needs to get that notification that you want to claim that contribution as a tax deduction. So it is so important to do this step as soon as you've made that contribution, because we want you to be able to get the most out of superannuation and get the most tax deductions at the end of the tax year. We suggested every 12 weeks as well, just so you're getting your sums completely correct. And we don't want you to miss out on any money that's owed to you either, because it's very hard to make money in these days. So we want you to be able to take as much advantage of possible as the tax system as possible. During this step though, I just want to give a little bonus tip to keep in mind. If you are earning below $56,000 in your business, you may be eligible for the government co-contribution. So just keep that in mind, because if you do want to claim the government co-contribution, you can't claim your contributions as tax deductions. I know that's getting a bit more tricky now, but just keep in mind, if you think you are earning below that $56,000 mark for the year, just have a look up on the ATO website for the government co-contribution, because that's the government may be able to put some more money into your superannuation account for you and top it up a little bit on your behalf, which is a great little bonus. But like I said, rinse and repeat this 4-step program every 12 weeks. It'll get you in a good frame of mind to save for superannuation. It'll train yourself and it'll become part of your normal business practices. We want people to be rewarded for their hard work. So this is one way of doing that. You can integrate it into your business by, setting yourself reminders as well to do this every, setting up the weekly savings, contributing the 12 weeks, and then filling out and sending out that notice of intention to claim form. I just wanted to touch on, again, that notice of intention to claim form. If you are sending it in to claim your contributions, please ensure that your superannuation fund receives it and you get a confirmation receipt that they have. Again, if you don't receive one, they might have not received it, and you might not be eligible for those tax deductions. So that is the 4 steps that can be applied to any superannuation fund, and regardless of what you're earning. So I hope a few people out there have got a few of that and taken that in. But I also wanted to part with everybody watching today who watches this seminar. If you don't want to go through all of these 4 steps, as I've said, GigSuper is all about imparting financial education and empowerment to self-employed people. That is our motto. We want our businesses in our community to grow, because we believe if you're more inclined to grow your business, you will then be more better placed to grow your superannuation balance and then close your retirement gap. So that's why if you head over to our website, or I can send it to anybody who emails through to me at paul@gigsuper.com.au. You can join and you can start the 30-day self-employed super bootcamp. So we teach those previous 4 steps in the last slide, and we send you out in a 30-day bootcamp all the steps required to pay yourself superannuation. So we teach how to do it with any superannuation fund. We give you a workbook and we give you prompts along your 30-day journey to get you to start paying yourself super again in a really easy manner with any super fund. And again, you can always ask me questions along this journey, because what we really want to do, like I said, is just get people saving for their retirements again. So it's a great program. We've had people go all the way through and come out the other end and become absolute pros at doing their super themselves. And it's just so awesome to see people closing their own retirement gaps. But also, if you don't want to go through those 4 steps, and if you don't want to go through a 30-day bootcamp, GigSuper was created for self-employed people like yourself. So you can set it up in as little as 15 minutes, and we make the savings to super and savings to your saver account completely automated. We're the only super fund in the country dedicated for self-employed people like yourself. So we give you 2 accounts, not just one. So that's what makes us so unique. We give you a designated GigSuper saver account when you sign up with us, which you can set up your weekly savings. And then in that saver account, you've also got a buffer feature that decides if you want to hold some money back come time of the quarterly contribution that happens every 3 months as well. Everything above your buffer amount gets swept across to super for you. And that's when we automatically claim your super contributions as tax deductions if you want us to. Or if you don't want to as well, you also give us those instructions. But all of that happens automatically. There is no need for you to go through the whole 4-step process, all the 30-day boot camp. That whole process for you is completely taken care for you through automation, and we give you simple steps along the way. And of course, if you sign up, you'll have friendly, faces like myself to help you guide you along your way, to help you choose what's best for yourself as well. We're here, hopefully designed to help you become a part of your business journey and help you pay yourself super and help you reward yourself after all of your hard work. So that's pretty much GigSuper in a nutshell. We also have at the moment some member benefit options. If you sign up with us as well, we offer a free invoicing program called Soul App. That's an amazing partnership that we have at the moment. So we're trying to give our small business members as much benefits as possible for becoming a member with us. But please, if you have any questions at all, please get in contact with me at paul@gigsuper.com.au. I am here to answer all of your questions. I'm the resident super guide, so that is my job. I am passionate about super and I love talking about it. And I know I could chat James's ear off for another half an hour about superannuation, but I probably won't. But I know superannuation can seem really tricky at times and a bit complex. Please be assured, though, that no question is a silly question. We at GigSuper, of course, want to give the self-employed community as much tools in their arsenal as possible to pay themselves super. And it is so important that we want to give people as much chance and possibility to close their retirement gap before they get to that retirement age, and unfortunately don't end up with small amounts of sums to rely on for maybe another 30 years in retirement. So if you're excited, if you want to start paying yourself super in any of those steps, I'm more than happy to chat about any of it as well. Of course, general advice only, but I hope I've opened some eyes up about why it's so important to start to close that retirement gap for some individuals, because we definitely want our self-employed community to really reap that short-term benefits of the tax deductions that they can get yearly, and also the long-term benefits of superannuation, which is so important. But that is the majority of the presentation today. I hope I didn't bore anyone with all that super chat, James. I hope that was all right.
No, not at all, Paul. Super is always really interesting.
Yeah. I like that choice of word. Interesting.
Yeah. That was great. So, some really important stuff there, which I'm sure, a lot of our members would appreciate. And I think it's some really relevant sort of information there as well. We did have a couple of comments that came through throughout the presentation. We had a couple of questions as well, which if we could just sort of jump into. I believe we had 3. So we had the first one, which has come through. It's from Elizabeth Little, and I think it was in reference to this 4-step program that you mentioned previously. So is that, the question is that turnover or profit, the 56K?
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. That's on that profit that's generated from your business. So of course, whatever goes towards your overall individual tax return, that's what that 56K is going to be. That's what I'm in reference to. So if your individual tax return notice of assessment, if you're earning below that $56,000 mark, it may be good to have a look at that government co-contribution to see if you're eligible for a bit more money.
Absolutely. I've got another one from Liz, and she wants to know also how much is the co-contribution, and is there a cap?
Yeah, no, great one. So the government co-contribution, if you're actually earning below the $41,112 mark, you're testing me here, Liz. I like it. You could be eligible for up to $500. And then once you start earning over that $41,112 mark to $56,112, that $500 government co-contribution does begin to taper off a little bit as you get close to that $56,000 mark. So there is something, along the way for a lot of people. And it's just really good to get as much money as possible, because who doesn't like a bit of free money in their super account? I mean, I'm not going to turn my hand up to that. So.
Absolutely. And we have a final one. This one is from Jason. He asks, are there any costs involved in signing up?
Yeah, there are no sign-up costs, to open an account or anything, but there are the normal superannuation account costs, such as the account keeping fees, administration fees, investment costs. So we have 2 fees at GigSuper. It's the $1.50 per week fee, And then we have a 0.95% variable fee, which of course covers all account keeping fees, investment costs, and putting on lots of events for our members as well, and keeping everything up aboard to legislation. So there are a few bit of costs to running a super fund, but we're definitely very competitive in that field as well. So against all other super funds, we do come very competitive across majority of super funds too. So no, good question, Jason.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jason, and thanks to everyone that's sending the questions. Paul, I'm sure we will get a couple more questions as this is sort of hosted on our website, YouTube channels and stuff. So I know you provided your contact information previously. So for anyone that does watch this video and has any questions, we'll be more than happy to sort of provide your contact information. And I'm sure we'll be more than happy to answer those questions too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm more than happy to answer anything. Again, bring them through. And if you have any questions about, anything GigSuper related or the bootcamp program or paying yourself super, please let me know.
Wonderful. Well, short and sweet today, Paul. So a big thank you to GigSuper and to yourself for joining us this afternoon.
No worries. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for, bringing me along to this. I'm a bit of a super nerd. So, anytime I get to chat somebody zero off about super, I'll jump at the chance. So thank you for letting me be a part of your business building, program as well. It's great.
No, it's our pleasure. And thank you to all the Kinaway members that tuned in for today's webinar. Again, some really valuable information provided for our members on a topic that's often sort of overlooked, but really important to everyone that's in business. So once again, thank you to everyone for today. A reminder to our members to tune in for our upcoming webinars. And don't forget to like today's video, subscribe to the Kinaway channels on all the various platforms, and of course, feel free to reach out to Kinaway if you require any forms of support. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and we hope you have a great rest of the week. So thank you.